Mike Babcock steps down as the Columbus Blue Jackets head coach and how this affects the future in Columbus. We'll get into that later in this episode, but before we start, I just want to say that 87.4% of you guys aren't subscribed. So if you're enjoying this daily NHL and Leafs content, make sure to hit that subscribe button. But we'll hop straight into it with Mike Babcock resigns as the Blue Jackets coach. As you've seen recently, reports did come out that Babcock did resign from the Columbus Blue Jackets. This came out after a lot of reports have shown that he was going through players' phones, just making players uncomfortable. You've seen some veterans step up, like Boone Jenner and Reninsky, say they had this interaction with Mike. Everything was fine. They see no harm in it. But then you've seen another player come out that said that Mike had his phone, went through his phone, he was airplane photos, and just kind of invaded his privacy that made him feel really uncomfortable. When you look into some articles here, this was a difficult decision on everyone's part, but one we felt was necessary to ensure our focus remains on the players and team's upcoming season, said Blue Jackets General Manager Jarmo Kekalainen. On behalf of the entire Blue Jackets organization, we want to thank Mike for his hard work and professionalism he has shown in working together on a plan to step down. Upon reflection, it has become clear that continuing as head coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets was going to be too much of a distraction, said Babcock. While I'm disappointed to not have had the opportunity to continue work we've begun, I know it's the best interest of the organization for me to step away at the time. I wish everyone in the organization well in this upcoming season. So when you look at Babcock as a whole, if you look at his record through the NHL, he had 10 seasons with Detroit, 5 with Toronto, 2 with Anaheim, and this season would be 1 with Columbus. In total, he had 1,301 total games coached, 700 wins, 418 losses. And if you look through at his win percentages, it was 64.9, 55.7, 52.1 for a total of 60.8. When you look at Babcock just from the outside, he looks like an incredible coach. He has experience. He's brought Detroit to a Stanley Cup. He's built a lot of teams and implemented systems that showed success throughout organizations. But when you look behind all of this, you kind of get to see the bad parts of him. You've seen Chris Chelios was scratched one game off his 1,500. You look at Spezza being scratched in Toronto on the home opener where he had fans, he had family members, he had friends, he had everyone in the stands just waiting to watch his opportunity to finally play for Toronto. You've seen a situation where he brought Mitch into his office, got him to say everything he didn't like about his teammates, and then brought this up in a meeting. Overall, Babcock is not a coach I do like. I think overall, as just purely taking him as a coach, looking at his on-ice performance, he is a good coach. He doesn't play the rookies in the right way. And I think overall, just his impact that he's left on Columbus is going to be devastating in the way where you have this mix-up of the guys like Boone Jenner, Reninsky, Johnny Gaudreau, saying they see no harm in this, everything was fine, and they almost stuck up and spoke out for Babcock. But then you've seen these smaller guys come through that weren't named, saying they felt very uncomfortable with the situation, just how the situation was handled. And when you look at his previous record, you just see that stuff like this is just not meant to be in this league. You want the players' safety. You want them to feel comfortable. They're going to a job. Regardless if it's playing hockey, this is a job they do for a living. And you can't just micromanage these players in a way to make them feel uncomfortable, putting them in bad situations, scratching players on the opener, making players speak bad about their teammates just to bring it up in an open locker room. And it kind of makes you just look at how this is going to impact the Columbus Blue Jackets in the way where you might have a divide in the locker room in the sense that you have these younger guys who are looking up to a guy like Boone Jenner, who's the captain of the organization, and just kind of looking at him like, hey, why did you step up for Mike? You know, it's a situation where he might have not been impacted, but it wasn't really talked about in this locker room on how everyone felt. So when this news did come out, they did come out and say that they hired Pascal Vincent, and I think he is going to make an impact on the Blue Jackets. When you look at it, Vincent, who turns 52 on September 22nd, joined the Blue Jackets as an associate coach in 2021. He spent the previous 10 seasons as a member of the Winnipeg Jets organization, including 5 as the head coach of the American League's Manitoba Moose from 2016 to 2021. He had a 155, 139, and 31 record in 325 AHL games and was named Coach of the Year and other awards. Vincent is an outstanding coach. He knows our players and organization is represented by everyone here. He was a strong candidate for our head coach position several months ago, in the best position to help us navigate this change as we begin training camp and our team moving forward. So when you kind of just look at this, it makes you think, if this guy knows the system, he knows how this team works, he knows all this information on how the team runs, he knows the players, you trust him, and he was a strong candidate, why did Columbus just not name him head coach? You look at the track record we talked about at Babcock, it's not a good one. You see these organizations just slowly move off from him for reasons. You see all this outside information coming in of things that he's done, things that's made players uncomfortable, and just divided locker rooms, benching rookies, not giving them fair play, and all these situations. Why not just trust the guy that is in your system, that knows your system, and just ultimately could lead this team and would have stopped a situation of Babcock doing something like this again? You go into training camp now with a disgruntled team. It's a young team. They have leadership. But as I said, that may be divided with the whole situation going on. So it makes you kind of look at it, why did management step in and say, hey, we want Babcock? What was the ultimate decision? Why was there no other coaches that were put into this job? You see a bunch of free agent coaches that were just kind of lingering around and are waiting for a job. Why not take someone internally that you trust, that's been in the system, that knows how things run? What made them think that hiring a guy like Babcock was the great and the perfect plan? When you look at the organization, you have guys like Johnny Gaudreau, Boone Jenner, Patrick Laine. You have guys on the back end like Reninsky, Servicin, Provorov, Erica Branson. You have these leaders. Columbus is building something special here. You look at some of the forwards as well, like Jack Roslovic, Kent Johnson, Adam Fantelli they drafted this year. And you still have a guy like Adam Boquist, and you have Jake Bean. You have these young guys coming through the system. You have these veterans. And Columbus is in the situation now where they are getting really close to competing. I mean, if you look at the defense, they've reshaped the defense. They've added Steverson this season. They traded for Provorov. They still have Elvis Merzlikins in net. And as I said, you have this mix of late 20s, early 30 guys that are established in this league. They can produce, they bring leadership. And then you have these young guys that are coming through just to make this instant impact. And I think Pascal Vincent is the perfect coach for this. As it said in the article, he has a situation where he knows the system. He knows these guys. He gets a couple of new faces, a couple of young guys, and he has this opportunity to build something special in Columbus. But I think the Babcock signing will kind of delay this a little bit in the case of you have these guys that are a little disgruntled. They have a new coach. They didn't even get to play under Babcock. And there's that whole stigma of what he did brought up. And I think ultimately this does delay the process in Columbus. I don't think it's going to affect them overly into the next couple seasons, but it still could see a bit of leadership change. If anything else comes out of Boone Jenner, maybe just trying to cover his coach's ass, and these younger guys don't like it, maybe you see Boone Jenner heading out at some point. But I think Columbus has a bright future. I think within the next 2 to 3 years, they will be competing. They'll finally be back in the playoff race. And I think this team should have just got Vincent Pascal from the beginning. I don't think they should have hired Babcock. As you can ask Detroit fans, you can ask Toronto fans. He's just not the right guy to bring into this young rebuilding team, because it almost just causes situations like that the team almost had to know were bound to happen at some point. But we'll get into everyone's favorite topic, which is comments of the day. Comment of the day comes from Sims, who said, "Welcome back, KC. You guys are stuck with me for just 2 more days. KC is still in England. He hopped in the video yesterday because he just missed it and he wanted to hop back in and get the feeling for doing videos again. But if you guys wanted to leave a comment on how you feel about this Babcock situation, what's your thoughts on the hiring, how do you think this affects Columbus, and just overall, what's your expectations going into the season with this team, the new coach, and how things will run? We love to read the comments. If you guys liked it, you can like the video as well, and you can subscribe, of course. But take care.